back to another edition of Raw Intuition Inside Scoop. We've got another rock star guest for you today. It's Ian Myers, and he is a health coach, a detoxification specialist, and a holistic personal trainer. And he has gone through his own personal health and detoxification journey, and through some hard work and dedication, he's come out on the other side looking and feeling great. And so I wanted to bring Ian on and just get his experience and some thoughts from him to inspire you into getting your own life healthy and vibrant, and just taking control of the things that we can control. So, Ian, thanks a lot for coming on the channel and sharing your experience with us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, brother. It's good to be here this morning with you, and look forward to sharing some insights and some positive energy.
Awesome. Great to have you. All right. So I guess we can just start off with, can you give us a little bit of a background on yourself and sort of ultimately what was it that got you into your healing path, and what kind of experiences have you gone through?
Sure, I'd love to. It definitely brings up some vulnerable times, for sure. You know, as I think for many of us that get involved with this detoxification journey and path, many of us get started for something came up for us along the way where we have some sicknesses or some healing that needs to take place. And for me, I'm the oldest out of 3 kids, and for the first 28, 29 years of my life, I was one of those kids that ate a lot of junk food, ate really the standard American diet, the SAD diet. I was the only child out of 3 of us that didn't eat a single vegetable. I didn't like vegetables, didn't like the taste, the texture. Parents tried everything for me to just eat some vegetables, and nothing worked. I didn't like fruit. I was maybe lucky to have a banana once a month. Wow. So I was more into like the junk food, the pizzas, the cereal, cake, and stuff like that, you know, for pretty much the most of my life. And at 28 years old, I actually was, well, first of all, to back up, I've always been into exercise. So that's always been, luckily that's always been with me along the journey. But I found myself in my 20s eating very unconsciously. I was eating a lot of fast food and staying up late, also drinking alcohol, doing a lot of other things that you experiment with in your 20s, or at least I did. And at about 28 years old, I was going to enter a bike race with my stepdad, and I wanted to make sure that I was healthy. And I was noticing I had I was having high blood pressure pretty consistently, regularly. So I went in and decided to have a physical, and through that physical, they did ultrasounds and EKGs and heart scans, found that I was actually developing heart disease at 28 years old.
Wow. So
you can imagine 28 years old, feeling healthy, and then having that diagnosis was pretty eye-opening for me. And then to top that off, I had a couple other things with, of course, I knew I had high blood pressure, but outside of that, I was developing diabetes. I had sugar metabolism issues, and also had major digestive problems. And I had my adrenal glands. What I learned through detoxification were extremely weak. I took Accutane as a kid, which was for acne, which really kills and wipes out the adrenals. Yeah. I didn't know that then, and does a lot of other damage to liver and stuff like that. Kidneys and liver. So I had a lot of the odds were kind of stacked against me at that time, and that was very eye-opening for me. And I didn't want to go on to any kind of medication. That was one thing I just opted out of. I just had an intuition that there was something else out there for me, and I started to I do what most people do, is just go to the computer, start researching. I found and was inspired that I saw that people were actually healing their body naturally through more of a plant-based lifestyle. And through researching more on that on YouTube, I actually found somebody that inspired me to to kind of go onto that path. And I discovered juicing, and that got me inspired and kind of started to turn over some new leaves. And so, 28 years old, after all of this stuff came up full circle, I knew that change had to happen. The challenge is that I didn't like vegetables. So it's like, okay, I know I need to get vegetables in, but how do you do it if you don't like them?
Yeah.
And that's where the juicing was actually a big part of my transformation. Is went out, got a juicer, and for 3 months, all I did was just I didn't change any diet or change anything in my diet. I didn't go on any crazy fad diet or food deprivation of any sort. All I did was just add in a juice, carrot, apple, ginger, and lemon juice, something simple.
Yeah.
And I did that every morning for 3 months, and literally after about 3 months, my taste buds started to wake up and started to change. I started craving vegetables for the first time in my life, and that took me to the next step, which was starting to incorporate more greens. I didn't like greens at the time, so I was just kind of learning. My palate was changing, and I started to bring in more living food. And before I knew it, 6-8 months into it, I was actually almost 100% raw, and had started to move away from eating the dead food and animal products and things like that were pretty much a staple in my diet for almost 30 years of my life. So as I backed away from this and got into about 8 months of the 8-month mark and eating very raw, all the living food I was almost 100% raw about the 8-month mark. Mm-hmm. So at that point is when I started to research to the next thing, which was found Dr. Robert Morse, our mentor.
Yeah.
And that took me to the next step in my life, which was getting certified and learning about the art of detoxification. And that's where the real magic started to really happen for me on a deeper cellular level. I ended up losing a total of 75 pounds on this whole journey. I went from 245 pounds sick and eating the standard American diet to going into the detox and actually going down to 170 pounds. So at my very lowest weight, I was 170, and I literally it's like wringing out a sponge. I got rid of all the fat cells, all the toxins, did a lot of work on the GI tract and adrenals and all of the kidneys and, what we do in detox.
Yep.
And then I'll never forget Robert Morris saying, because I used to call, this was back in 2012 when you could actually call the clinic and speak to, anybody there for quite a while. Now you call in, you've got to go through the automated service.
Yeah.
Well, I would call in and just like, I'm losing weight, I'm freaking out, and I had lost 75 pounds, and things were just really chaotic at that time. So I remember Robert saying, you're going to have to get comfortable with getting skinny before you can put muscle back on. And that just stuck with me. And I ended up, getting down to 170, and I started to, reached a point where it felt it was time to start to rebuild my body. And I had started from the ground, building back up. And now I'm weighing about 195 pounds, still into plant-based eating, not 100% raw anymore, about 90 to 95%. Mm-hmm. And now I've been able to rebuild my body, and I'm healthy, and now I just help others to do the same thing. So
awesome.
That's been the journey, kind of in a real quick breakdown.
Yeah. So did you ever go back to the doctors after you kind of cleared up your body, and did they find that you no longer had, the beginning stages of heart disease and diabetes and all that?
Well, the part of what in the beginning, when I started to embark on this journey, I was just really concerned with I wasn't really concerned. I just had this intuition that mentally I knew that this was what I was going to need to heal my body.
Yeah.
And whatever was going on, I was convinced that it was going to, leave. Mm-hmm. And I guess I sold myself on healing. I never did go back to actually get blood work done.
Yeah.
However, blood pressure went down. That was the first thing that actually went down. And I guess in my mind, I just intuitively felt that I was healing.
Mm-hmm.
And I know after all the research that I've done over the years that how powerful our thoughts are. You know, if we believe and trust that something's happening,
yep.
I fully believe that it's going to happen, the good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
And if for any moment we have a self-doubt or any kind of feelings that come in that we doubt anything, I believe that's when healing stops. You can take all the herbs you want. You can, you can eat all the raw foods that you want. But if your mindset is doubting it at all, I believe that, the full healing will not take place until we're committed and fully dialed in and trust and believe that it's happening. Yeah. So, I haven't actually gone in and had blood work done, but I feel deep down in my core that my body's healed, and at least on the surface, I don't have any kind of symptoms as far as high blood pressure or any kind of major symptoms of candida or any of that stuff going on. Okay. So I haven't actually had blood work done. I haven't been to the doctor since I started all this. So yeah. I try to avoid going because I don't have to. But it would be interesting. That would be a test to actually have done to show maybe the progress. Just to have something on paper. Mm-hmm. That says yes. Here you go. Yeah. But it's I've seen so many studies where they've taken patients and done procedures on them, and everybody thought that they were. They had a test group that they did these microscopic knee surgery procedures on, and they took half of the group in, and actually they took the whole group of people in, and they drilled the holes as if they had the actual surgery. Mm-hmm. But they only actually fully performed the whole surgery on half of the group. And what's interesting is after they actually went into their healing. And after they went into the healing and they went back in to retest them, the group that actually did not have the surgery healed just the same as the group that actually had the surgery. Yeah. And the reason behind that is that they drilled the holes as if the surgery had actually been done, the operation had been done, and they fully believed that happened, and there was no limiting beliefs going on there. Mm-hmm. What's interesting is their body healed. It healed just the way or just the same as the group that actually had the operation done. And there's been countless other studies that they've done. That's just one that really sticks out for me, and I just find that really fascinating. Yeah. So,
yeah, I'm always amazed at how we hear these stories of these healings taking place basically just through positive thinking, affirmations and things like that. So it really goes to show that healing is not just a physical aspect. It's mental, it's emotional, spiritual. You really have to hone in on all of those aspects to really get the full effect of detox and of healing.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a holistic approach. Yeah. You have to have the body, the mind, the soul. Everything has to be aligned. Right. And it's really incredible what happens when we get all of those in sync. And that's when the real, true, deep healing can actually take place. Mm-hmm. And the herbs and eating raw, those are just facilitators in the whole equation. Right. So, yeah.
Yeah. So for you, what, either physically or mentally, what was the most difficult part of your detoxification journey? Was it just dealing with the weight loss, or was there another thing that kind of was more of a hurdle for you?
Well, that's a great question, because there's a couple of times, and the weight loss was certainly something that mentally, or my ego was definitely impacted by the weight loss, because for the first time in my life, I've always been into exercise and weightlifting, and so when I was up at 245 pounds, I felt, really strong. And even though I carried a lot of body fat on my frame, I felt really strong. And when I got down to 170, it was totally different. None of my clothes fit. My sport coat jackets that I wore for work, everything swallowed me, and I looked like I was sick. People that knew me were asking, family members included, "Are you sick? Do you have cancer?" So mentally, I'm thinking, like, I went from this bigger guy to this scrawny guy, and I was like, wow. I had to face that and go through that, and it was a bit of a challenge. And it forced me to kind of work those edges and go a little bit deeper and heal whatever was going on there as well, and get comfortable with myself in a new body. So that was a big challenge. The food part wasn't as much of a challenge as I hear it is for some people, staying raw. For me, everything was so new. It was like being a child and growing up and being introduced to these foods. So for me, I'd never had salads. I never had guacamole. I was 30 years old and never had guacamole. So it was quite the experience, and it was all so much fun in the beginning. So, I would learn one thing about certain foods and be excited to learn something else. And I just kept uncovering all these new things. So I was on flying high with the raw living foods.
Yeah.
It was amazing. I think the biggest challenge for me in the beginning was with my weight, and also I was uncovering a lot of new things as far as accepting myself, and also I remember in the beginning when I went to the first Dr. Moore's class, I was such a closed off human being at that time. I had a hard time even giving another person a hug. It just didn't. My emotional body, I was just very protected and guarded.
Yeah.
And I remember after that class, it was so transformational for me. I was giving everybody a hug by the end of the class and telling everybody I love you. And it was like, I'd never done that in my entire life, but I was open to it. And I had been raw at that point for a couple of months, I think 6 months or 7 months. And I was feeling my consciousness was just expanding and my heart was opening. And it was just such a profound experience. And it had a big impact on my life and what the next level was for me. So
wow.
Those were some big shifts. So I'd say in the beginning was definitely the weight loss. And I hear this too with a lot of people that I work with, and a lot of comments and questions on Facebook. People get very fearful when the weight starts coming off, especially men. We get so skinny, and it's like, what do we do now? I want to rebuild my body, but what do I do? I'm skinny. I've lost all my weight, and I don't feel. It's such a challenge for us, and those are a lot of questions that seems to be a real big issue for a lot of people. Is we get skinny first before we rebuild our body, and it's hard. That's a hard thing to take on. Yeah. If for ego and just the way that we're. I know for men, or for myself at least, it felt good being 245, and now where I'm at, I'm like, oh wow, I could never go back to that.
Right.
But I didn't know that then.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I dealt with the same thing. I lost a lot of weight in the beginning, and it was definitely difficult for me too. And I'm actually right now on my 21st day of a juice fast. In the last couple of days, I've lost a little more weight, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Well, congratulations on your endeavor there.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Thank you.
What's your goal? Do you have a goal, or are you just kind of seeing how long it feels good to go?
Yeah, well, I initially started out, my mom is detoxing herself, and so she wanted to go on a 30-day juice fast, and so I just kind of went in with her to give her some support. And so now I'm trying to decide if I want to stop at 30 days or just keep going and just see how deep I can dig. But I don't know. We'll see what happens.
That's awesome. And
yeah.
she's on board too.
Yeah, she's still going.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. She's got to be feeling really good.
It's been up and down for her, but the last couple days have been better for her. So
What's been the what's as far as the up until this point, has there been any sticking points for you along the way, or has it been pretty smooth sailing?
you know what? This is by far my longest one. Previously, 10 days was my longest one, and that was way back when I first kind of got into this lifestyle. And this one has been really smooth. I haven't really had any cravings or hunger or anything like that. And I've really been trying to. I think the problem with my first one was that I didn't drink enough juice. And so this one, I'm drinking more juice. I'm trying to get up to like a gallon a day.
Yeah.
And so,
that's good.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the biggest factors, other than my body is, way cleaner than it was back then too. So, yeah, it's been pretty smooth.
It's awesome. So the cleaner you get, the more efficient you are in absorption and utilization. So you actually get satisfied on less.
Yep.
So
yeah,
that's great.
Yep. It's amazing that we can. My energy is still up. My workouts are still good. So it just goes to show that we don't. People think we need so much food to keep our energy up, but really we don't need quite as much as we probably think. So.
No, I just taught a workshop yesterday called Elevated Awareness, and we incorporate yoga, music, and also I talk about nutrition and how to raise your energy naturally with living foods.
Mm-hmm.
And yesterday was I do a lot of fasting too. I usually do juice fasting up until about 12 or 1 in the afternoon,
mm-hmm.
and then I'll start to get into more like apples and heavier things, and then start getting into a big salad with fats at night.
Yeah.
But I drink these 32-ounce mason jars of smoothies and juice up until about 12 or 1.
Nice.
And I'm also a high endurance athlete.
Mm-hmm.
I'm out either riding my bike or working out and doing something outside.
Yeah.
And I'm able to go on juice pretty much almost all day, and then still retain 195 pounds.
Awesome.
I eat a lot of bananas, but
yeah, me too.
yeah, that's what we have to do.
Right.
So
just kind of to go back to the struggle issue, because we both know, clients that we work with and just people we know that try to get healthy. Going through the struggles, what did you do? Like, do you have a tip or advice for people that are going through these struggles on how they can get through them without feeling like they need to go back to their old ways?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that come to mind. I think one of the most important things that I feel I can share on that is just being patient with yourself, because in today's modern world, we want things overnight. We want things really quickly. Things are supposed to work within 10 days, or we have a 30-day, 30-day juice cleanse that's supposed to, that's it.
Yep.
But I think it's just developing a lifestyle. Creating a healthier lifestyle is the ultimate goal with all of this, not a 30-day challenge, or those are great, but
Yeah.
I think to really keep yourself moving forward, the most important thing that I would mention is just to think of it as creating a healthier lifestyle, and that's going to take time. Mm-hmm. Some of us, depending on our ages, 20, 30, 40 years of poor habits and not knowing about food combining and not knowing what we know through detoxification. So now we're trying to turn this thing around and go the other direction with it. And we can start implementing healthy habits once a week, and before we know it, 6 months down the road, we've started to transform our lifestyle. And I think that's where a real, true, long-lasting, that's where the rubber meets the road, and we actually start to stay on track, because we're not going on a diet where we have restriction and food deprivation and fad diets and stuff. This becomes more of a lifestyle, and think when you start to think of it like that, and that there is no, all we have is time here. So we can slowly start to develop these healthy habits and keep moving up the mountain slowly, that in a way that is comfortable for us. And one thing I have learned with coaching people is that if you take something away and you have food deprivation, or you starvation techniques and things like that, it never lasts. Long-lasting change happens when our body is convinced and that we believe and trust in whatever we're doing, and we stay the course. But if you take something away, human nature is that we crave that or want whatever that is. So we have to kind of work through that and let our body just, like for me, when I was first working into all this stuff, letting go of cheese and meat and dairy and all of that was a bit of a challenge. But my body worked through it naturally, where I didn't want it anymore. I didn't have to say, no, you can't have this anymore. I just started adding in more healthier choices, which was fruits and vegetables in their natural state. And after about 6 to 8 months of doing this, I was like ready to go raw. I didn't want any meat. I didn't want any cheese. So I think having patience, taking little steps forward, and just continue adding in, not taking away. Just add in good things, and as you do that, all the bad stuff begins to just you don't want it anymore. You don't want that feeling.
Right.
So.
Awesome. Yeah. So back to the physical fitness aspect. I'm sure one of the biggest questions that you get is, where do you get your protein?
Yeah. That's always been a good one.
Yeah.
And I always say, well, where does a gorilla get his protein?
Right.
Strongest creature on the planet, and that is one of the areas that, again, we just put enough trust and faith in what we're doing, that we're getting everything that we need from the plant kingdom. It's very powerful. All the amino acids that we need to build muscle is we're going to find in the plants. And so I get my protein from a couple of different sources. It's all plant-based, fruits, vegetables in their natural state. Now, because I exercise at such a high level, I like to have a little bit of extra coming in just to ensure that I'm not losing any muscle. So what I do, I incorporate superfoods in. Really like superfoods, things like alfalfa, one of my favorites, chlorella powder, one of my other favorites. I also like things like the hemp seed powder is another one. I don't use that as often, but maca powder is one, and ashwagandha is a really good one.
Okay. Just
to kind of help keep things balanced with the hormones. So I like to get in a lot of superfood blends. I'll put them into put a couple of scoops into my shakes, and of course I eat a lot of. I'm about 90 to 95% raw, so I'm constantly flooding my body with nutrition and simple sugars.
Awesome.
So
cool.
I just keep it really simple, and I think the superfoods, if you're an athlete and you exercise at a very high level, I think that's a nice addition to have in to just make sure that you are retaining the muscle and continue to keep building and growing.
Cool. So do you notice a difference between your workouts now as compared to when you would work out back when you were consuming animal products?
Oh, totally. I mean, back then I was carrying a high amount of body fat. I think I was like 17 or 18% body fat. And I did very little cardio. I was lucky to ride my bike 5 miles before being physically exhausted.
Yeah.
And now I ride my bike 20, 30 miles, and I'm like, awesome. I feel good. I wake up, and I don't carry as much weight on my frame now, so I'm able to do a lot more. My body's not under such a high amount of stress, physical stress. And I find that I just work a lot more efficiently. My recovery time is most definitely cut down, and I'm getting older too, so it's I'm still able to work out at a very high level. And I have old injuries with shoulders and things that do bother me from time to time, where inflammation will will kick up a little bit. But what I find is, 1 to 2 days and inflammation's gone, and I'm right back in it. So I believe that the lifestyle has a lot to do with the recovery, because all of the high water fruit and vegetables that I eat help to flush the body, keep the toxins, metabolic waste down, and also inflammation down. And that's a key factor in recovery, is the inflammation and flushing out metabolic waste.
Yeah.
So I believe that the plant-based lifestyle is very, very eating this way is very beneficial to recovery, and for athletes especially, for everybody really. But starting to see more and more athletes going to plant-based eating, whether it be vegan or raw vegan. We're hearing about more and more people breaking records, and athletes stepping up at high levels who are embracing the lifestyle and really making some changes out there. So it's great to see that.
Yeah. And what was it? The only Olympic male to go, or he was a vegan, our only U.S. Olympic person. Yeah.
And he lifted a record amount. I don't remember what it was, but it was a lot of weight. Yeah. And this guy's, it just shows you what's possible out there. No matter what level that you're on, you can certainly reap the benefits of eating plant-based, and and not to mention all the other things, not just for health benefits with eating plant-based, but the planet,
right?
On the water that we save, and with not, somebody was mentioning the other day, all of the land that has to be cleared for raising livestock, and so of course there's an impact that has on the footprint on the planet. So there's a lot of things that we can talk about around eating plant-based. I think we're evolved enough as a species now that we know that we don't need animal products to build muscle or to live a healthy lifestyle. If anything, eating plant-based is certainly light years ahead as far as our health and eat plant-based. Look at people that still consume animal products, and I think there's a big difference on the spiritual side and just being able to live a healthy and happy lifestyle.
Yeah.
So, big advocate of it.
Perfect. Well, me too. Can you give an example? I know you kind of already gave a little insight into it, but a typical day of eating for you.
I will always wake up, usually, I'm always up around 4:30, 5 o'clock. First thing I do is have water, lemon. Sometimes I'll do a little bit of baking soda in there, aluminum-free baking soda. Sometimes I'll do that just to provide a little bit more alkalinity.
Yeah.
I exercise early, so usually about 4:30, 5 o'clock, I'll go to the gym, train. When I'm finished, I will have a couple of these 32-ounce mason jars, and I'll have usually a half a gallon. So 2 of those would be, I think, a half a gallon. And what I do is I put about 15 to 20 bananas in the blender and blend that up with the superfoods and usually a little bit of spring water, reverse osmosis water, some cinnamon. I blend those up, drink those first thing in the morning. After that, I'll usually I may have another, like a fruit pudding or another smoothie with more berries in it rather than the bananas. After that, I usually will go to something like apples. I usually have 2 to 3 apples. I have a variety of superfoods like goji berries, mulberries, golden berries. I have a couple of different superfoods that I'll just snack on, full of nutrition. And then once I get into the afternoon time, that'll usually carry me through 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. By that time, I'm usually wanting to kind of start chilling out a little bit, so I want to bring my energy down. So that's when I'll go to avocados and salad and bring in a little bit more of the fats. That's usually kind of how I roll through the day. So lots of hydration, lots of alkalinity, lots of amino acid rich foods in the morning, all the way up until I get to the afternoon, and then I start to come down the mountain with more grounding foods like fats and salads and greens. Mm-hmm. So that's usually how I roll through the day.
Cool. So are you a calorie counter?
Never. I used to. In fact, I still have. I don't think I have it here, but I have a diary from when I was 245. I used to write everything down. Fat, protein, carbohydrates. I wrote it all down for 2 years. I have this big, thick diary of all the stuff that I used to do, and now I don't keep anything. Mainly because I'm so in tune with my body and how I'm feeling. Also, how I'm looking, so I can tell if I'm losing weight, if I'm not eating enough, which has happened. Happens quite a bit sometimes when I just get busy and just don't eat as much. And the good news is that when we eat clean and raw, you have little fluctuations. Some mornings I'll wake up and I'm 5 pounds lighter. I go, oh my gosh, I'm not eating enough. Yeah. So right there, I know just mentally as I go through that day, I'll be more conscious on getting more calories in just through bananas and fruit and stuff like that. I'm never worried about gaining weight and getting, overweight because I just can't eat enough on this lifestyle. That's the beautiful thing about eating raw is I can just eat all day unless I start eating, fats and nut butters and stuff. That's when I really start gaining body fat. But that's not the kind of fat that I want to. It's not the kind of weight I want to have. So I usually don't do too much of that.
Right. For clients, what in your experience is like the most common mistake that people make when trying to either get physically fit or just get healthy overall?
The common mistake, I think that's a good question. A lot of people just that I work with seem to, going back to what I mentioned earlier, just they want everything quickly. Mm-hmm. And so part of what I like to do is just kind of gently guide and lead them in to what's possible and slowly start to make some, adding in some good things to start making some changes. It's hard to say exactly what, other than that, because I don't really think that there's any mistakes that we can make. There's no perfect way or wrong way to do this. I believe it's just there is a better way if you want faster results. But I think just even adding in water with lemon in the morning could be a great start for somebody. Yeah. And somebody else may say, well, yeah, you need to do also this, this, and this, and this. But really just water, lemon is fine. And you could do that and have something going. So so no real mistakes when I work with people. I never look at it as mistakes. I just look at things that they can maybe improve upon and just help with maybe some mental things, just getting the mindset right.
Awesome. I like that. All right, awesome. Well, so if there's people that want to find out more about you, do you have a website or any places where people can find you?
Absolutely. A couple of places. Of course, I've always been really active on Facebook. So I'm under Ian Myers on Facebook, and also my initials for my first and last name. So I Am Wellness. I have a page there for where I post just specifically things around healthy living, healthy lifestyle, exercise, things of that nature. And then I have a blog at ianmichaelmyers.org where there's recipes, things like that. Also the YouTube channel under Ian Meyers and I Am Wellness. There's a couple hundred videos there for around exercise and nutrition and recipes, just fun stuff. Yeah. And then I do have a website, which is ianmyerswellness.com. And that's where you can just find a little bit of information on me and my services. And here in Southern California and San Diego. So we're working on putting together a rebuilding retreat here. So cool. rather than detoxification retreat, this is more around rebuilding the body through exercise, nutrition, food, things like that.
Cool.
So we're working on that actually right now. So maybe in the next 6 to 8 months we'll be able to share a little bit more on that.
Awesome. Wow. Yeah, I look forward to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come out to Southern California and learn. Just go have some workshops, and this retreat would be based solely around the rebuilding phase and having support there, education there, exercise guidance, some yoga flow. Really just diving in and kind of doing like an immersion type of event or retreat. So those that want to rebuild their body and have some guidance there can come out and join us.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, there's a lot of detox focused retreats and things like that. But yeah, I like the idea of after the fact, you're going to want to rebuild your body. So that's a great idea.
Yeah, so I'm excited. I'm still working on bringing people on board and interviewing people that I think would be good coaches and that can bring something to some value to the retreat. Mm-hmm. And we live in a beautiful place here where the food is abundant. We have access to tropical fruit farmers. We have people out here that grow wheatgrass and oranges and so many wonderful things that we have. So we're in a perfect place for it. The weather's great. We have the ocean here, and so we're working on just finding the location and bringing in some key people that can really help to create that experience for people.
Awesome. Well, best of luck with that. Look
Thank
forward
you.
to hearing the progress. And guys, I hope that you will go check out Ian. All the resources I will link down below in the description box. And Ian, thanks again for coming on and sharing this awesome information with us.
Oh, thank you, brother. It's good to be with you, and I really appreciate you reaching out. And it's been a real pleasure and an honor to share with you and the viewers.
Likewise. All right, guys, thanks again for joining us, and we will catch you in the next video. Always remember to follow your raw intuition.
Yes.
Detoxify your mind and body. Be the change you want to see. Small steps towards living better. Small steps to where I want to be.